Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders Show.
Hey GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% impartial, completely unbiased, and frankly thrilled to death host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Now this week, unfortunately, as we mentioned last week, GT is going to have to step back from the show for a while at least, which means it'll go down to MJ and I, except MJ was selfish and went off on vacation. So we looked like we had probably just my boring old monotone, and that wasn't going to be good. Luckily, we have a savior coming in. Someone a lot of people out there will probably know. If you, like I, was a fan of the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast, say welcome back to Oz Davis. Hey, Oz, thanks for stepping in and helping us out.
Oh, no problem. I love to. But before we get started, I got one question for you. I know that you'd like to introduce yourself as Old Man Yelling at Clouds. So what am I calling you? Am I calling you Mr. Clouds? Are you oldie? What? How am I addressing
anything you feel like. Generally,
Okay.
I go by Old Man, but you can use anything you want.
I'll tell you, it's an honor because not often am I the youngest person in the chat room. So I appreciate that. Okay, so yeah, as the oldster just told everybody, I used to be with a show called the Rouge, White, and Blue. Actually, we did that for 10 years with my buddy up there in Wisconsin, Joe Pritchard. Nowadays, I'm doing another show called Shots from the Hip. It is a CFL highlighted, but sort of a catch-all, all-sport program. We lead with the CFL when the CFL is on, but the premise of the show is basically I get pretty obsessed season to season with certain events. A couple of months ago, I was completely enraptured by the World Cup. I tend to do that. I tend to follow the short-term event. It's enough to keep me interested for a month. I know just enough to be dangerous and lose some money gambling. And then it's on to the next thing. Because it's basically impossible to follow, 24 sports at the same time. Now that these North American sports leagues are becoming, 12-month a year events.
Everywhere.
And so I understand you wanted me to do a little bit of my history as a CFL fan, so I'll just keep it short because it's quite boring. As fellow old people know, there once was a time before we had the internet, and as a, let's say, teenager or preteen, I was a total sports nut anyway. And back in those days, it was pretty interesting because you would get those books. You'd get those books that would preview the upcoming season or the big magazines, where they break down.
I remember those, yes.
Yeah, and it was nice because in the American version, you get in this 200-page magazine. Yeah, so awesome. But then they would devote like the last, 10% or the last quarter of the text to the CFL. And sometimes when you collected the football cards, right, you'd get the stats on the back and they would include the CFL or even the World Football League or, for a couple of years, the USFL and whatnot. And so as an American, it was interesting to, hey, wow, there's even more football out there. Who are these, crazy teams, Argonauts? And two teams called the Rough Riders and like this. And at that time I was living in New England. I was living in central New Hampshire, and you could catch the Alouettes game. And I forget what channel it was. It might have been 56, but back in those days when you had the UHF channels on your device, and so every once in a while you could watch like the black and white or the cloudy Canadian Football League game. Montreal was my marginally home team. And so I basically viewed the league through the Alouettes. Now, through the years, the coverage in the U.S. has been sporadic. I first moved out here. I'm a real CFL outsider because not only am I an American, now I've been living in Hungary for the past 3 years. Sort of been in Europe on and off since 1995.
Yeah, that's not on a lot of bingo cards.
Yeah, for a while there, you could only follow the CFL through newspapers, those crazy, again, old things, legacy media outlets. But then, streaming came along. And so I was able to pick it up back again. When I moved back into the States in 2014, I hooked up with Joe Pritchard and started the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast. And at that point, it was pretty sweet because the CFL had a deal with ESPN. And so you could watch on demand on ESPN 3, which is purely an on-demand channel. You watch all the games, without the commercials, it's really nice setup. And, of course, nowadays, it's ironic because if you live outside of the U.S. or Canada, you actually have a better deal on streaming. All the games are completely free. Again, no advertising at all. We get the pregame show. You get the halftime show. The only disadvantage is these games disappear for a week, after a week of being for free. But as a result, now I'm able to watch every game every week, despite the fact that they're starting at about 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. local time, just on my own terms and stuff. So it's actually a really great time to be a CF fan in this season before they change all the rules and then make it look like NFL football.
Yes.
So,
and yeah, well, we're not even talking about that. We're going to get through this season and then see what's what.
Good.
But
yeah,
the other thing that anyone who knows you from Rouge, White, and Blue knows is that you stayed true as an Alouettes fan through right from the start. So this must be a rough year for you watching the CFL, man.
Oh, yeah. Boy, I'm hating life. My God. What a great season for Alouettes fans. Just wow. What an offense. What a quarterback. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about now some of the best Alouettes teams of all time. That's a little bit premature in my opinion, but on my show, I've been getting trolled. Is this the greatest CFL team ever? Let's slow the roll a little bit. We just recently had the 2021 Winnipeg Blue Bombers who looked pretty unstoppable. We just had an Argos team go, 16-2 and then get bounced in the playoffs to my beloved Alouettes. So let's not go that far, but man, yeah, especially after this week of games in the CFL, I feel like the Alouettes really established themselves as, the team in the CFL this year. You all talked about this a bit in last week's show. But yeah, they're really on this. You get in the CFL, the teams kind of separate into tiers about halfway through the season. But right now, it's like the Owls are on that number one tier. As it is kind of nerve-wracking as an Alouettes fan because every time Davis Alexander has to run, you're just holding your breath, man. You're just that. It's just like, please don't go down. Please don't go down.
Yeah.
Please.
Is that really a fully healthy leg or is there a lot of duct tape underneath those pants? Yeah.
Yeah. In the game against Ottawa, he led for a touchdown with his head. And I was just like, oh, no, that's right. No, it's not the head. It's the legs. So, okay, no problem.
Yes. Well, the other thing I find really interesting this year is I agree with you. The Alouettes, I don't think you can argue, are the best team right now. The second best team and the only one that's looking really close to them is the Elks. And frankly, usually the teams that are at the top have a lot of people hating on them. It seems like all the fans are just happy for them both.
Oh, yeah, of course.
People love these teams and seem to feel like, they've earned what it's legitimate. And for whatever reason, I like that. There's not a lot of people complaining about them the way there would be with, I think, probably any other team in the CFL right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so part of the Elks thing is just because of this drought. I mean, they have not been a viable contender since Mike Riley was playing. Yeah, no. And there's one part of it. There was the stuff about the name change, stuff about the ownership change. But look at it this way, too. What's the alternative? I mean, the Riders, say no more. Okay. The Stamps. Everybody's sick of the Stamps after they were the New England Patriots for most of the 21st century. Okay.
Winnipeg's had their run, yes.
Winnipeg, they had their run, right? They had their semi-dynastic period. Okay, we don't need any more of them. And the BC Lions, I mean, I don't know how the temperature is there in Canada, but a lot of people in the other markets really resent this, how the CFL tried to make Nathan Rourke, the face of the CFL. And ever since he came back from the NFL, he's been a shell of what we were promised. So in that respect, I mean, who else are you going to pull for in the West?
Yeah, I'll give
Good
you
for
that.
the Elks. Good for the Elks.
Yeah. The other thing with the Elks is I think that's got everybody happy with them is I think it's just Cody. There's something about him.
Yeah.
Every time you ever watch him play, to me, it feels like he shouldn't be out there. And yet he's just this guy that goes out and somehow wills things into happening and makes magic.
That's
incredible.
The thing. He's the definition of the plucky underdog. Yeah. I mean, he dragged that Riders team with no offensive line, to within a couple of plays of the Grey Cup. Yeah. Okay. Then they don't have faith in him anymore. So he goes to Montreal. He wins the Grey Cup, and the response is to replace him with the untested Davis Alexander. Now it turns out that was the play to make. Goes to Edmonton again, Grey Cup winning quarterback, mind you, and he's sitting on the bench behind Trey Ford, also untested. And it turns out that was the wrong play. And so now you've got a guy who's what now? With Edmonton alone, he's something like 15-5 as a starting quarterback, and still people are doubting this guy. And right now with the disappearance of Vernon Adams, I mean, Fajardo is arguably the second best week one quarterback right now in the CFL. In fact, I say arguably. I don't think it is arguably. Yeah. Davis Alexander is magic out there. But Cody has been Mr. Consistency. And it's not a question of just winning games. I mean, he's been good. For a while, it looked like Rankin was going to be the MOP on this Elks team this season, but he kind of dropped off after that first game against BC. He hasn't been the machine since about week 5 or 6. But Cody is still having monster games. Now, I mean, we'll talk about this in the preview. They had a couple of bad games. They had a couple of games where they couldn't do anything in the red zone against the Riders, and then they got smoked by the Owls the week after that. But now, I mean, other than that, I mean, he's been the field general, and he's been getting impressive stats. Yeah. I mean, Davis has had the monster season, but still, Fajardo has been awesome. Yes. He's not turning the ball over. Yeah. He's leading this team. Probably his worst play of the season has probably been complaining about not going for it on 3rd and 2 going into the second half against Montreal. And it turns out he was right, probably.
Yes. Even Killam says that.
But we'll never know. But, I mean, if the biggest move is disagreeing with your coach when you are right, he's having a monster season.
Oh, yeah. And that team has just rallied around him, and they're all playing better. They believe in themselves. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's another one in the legacy of great Edmonton quarterbacks, which you talked about last week on the show.
Most definitely. But let's also talk. There's not a whole lot of news for us to talk about this week as far as the CFL goes. And in fact, the first thing I got down on here is not really the CFL, but it's Canadian football. Because anybody that hasn't been paying attention, the IFAF World Championships were this weekend with Canadian men's and women's teams playing and Olympic berths on the line. And the women looked absolutely fantastic, went undefeated, beat America in the gold medal game, and they booked their ticket. The men's, it was a little bit tougher and a bit of a roller coaster ride. Nigeria, they got a forfeit over because Nigeria couldn't get their visas in time, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
They beat Austria, who's ranked number 2 in the world. Then they lost to Japan, but they still had a 2-1 record. That took them into the playoff round where they lost to Italy. But even that didn't knock them out. They managed to beat Mexico in overtime for the bronze. Top 2 teams in the tournament go to the Olympics. But U.S. already has a berth being the home team, so woohoo, Canada's in. Both our tickets are booked for both our teams. Now we can just look on getting better.
Well, I didn't follow too much of the flag football. I did see that the USA had their Olympic basketball 14-year streak broken by American Samoa, who anybody who follows rugby knows that Samoa produces a lot of rugby players. Nowadays, they seem to be producing a lot of football players as well. I guess spearheaded by my guy for the Rams, Puka Nacua. But just, really cranking out the great. I mean, these guys love the contact. So they beat the USA in the early rounds, but the USA did, in fact, come back and win the gold, as you mentioned. Just a couple of notes. I wanted to ask you, I caught one highlight clip of my main guy on Team Canada, Marc-Antoine Dequoy. Have we got any other stats from?
I don't have a lot, and I have a feeling that may be the one clip that's out there. Was it the one of him rushing the passer? Because that's what I saw.
Yeah. Now, what do you call that? What do you call that? Because it's not a sack, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Downing
out of my depth here.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to note is, and I caught this on the commentary last week, how Austria is the number 2 in the world in flag football, and that's pretty interesting because about 15 years ago, this part of Europe really began playing proper gridiron football. Of course, these teams don't really compete, with a Canadian team. But they're actually starting to learn the game. They're bringing in American coaches. And really the dominant team in the region was Vienna Knights. These guys were known throughout Germany, Hungary, Ukraine, places like this, who otherwise have pretty good teams. But Vienna Knights for 5, 6, 7 years just dominated the gridiron, the Central Europe gridiron football. And I mean, even against teams like Ukraine, which brought out a bunch of huge dudes. Vienna Knights was really the class of the league. So I thought it was pretty interesting that Austria is ranked number 2 in the world. I honestly think if the Knights are anything to go by, this is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, these guys, for some reason, the Austrians just love this game. Yeah. They love this football game. And, I haven't been following the flag football too much, but part of me really feels like this could be the future of football. It's honestly the only viable way for women to play this full contact sport. And I just feel like with the head injuries, with the downturn, the pretty massive downturn in participation at the high school level in America, that flag football might be the way to go. I don't think I'll be around to see it, but I wouldn't be surprised in 50 years if flag was a very, very, very popular international sport. Right. Because football is an exciting game. But the truth is, full contact football, takes a special breed.
It's dangerous,
of
yes,
individual. And
yes.
So I think in a lot of ways, flag football is the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing it at the Olympics. I was pretty cynical at first, but I think it could be interesting. Could be interesting.
I hope I don't see the demise of regular football because I know you're right. It's a dangerous sport and there's a price to be paid, but it was playing that got me in love with the game because there's just something about a sport where in the end, it quite often comes down to just how bad do you want it factor.
Well, it's in a lot of ways, it's an excellent game for all kinds of athletes, right? Because, okay, if you think about it, It's the only game that combines ball sport and combat sport. I mean, you've got 5 guys on the so-called offense who never touch the ball.
Yeah.
It's illegal for them to touch the ball in most cases. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why it became so popular in this particular part of the world. Is it's a great sport for guys who can't throw and catch, right? You can still play a ball game without having to throw a ball, which, as we know in Europe, most games, you don't throw a ball, right? The game out here is soccer. They also play a lot of handball, which is not so much about throwing as it is about passing, or even basketball. These are not classic. This is not baseball. This is not a game where you're actually throwing the ball. And so it's a great game for guys who just work out at the gym and want to flex. You've got that sumo wrestling thing happening on the offensive line. Yeah. And so in that respect, for me, it's the ultimate combination of mental and physical strategy. And so it is. And flag is a great solution for that. Flag is a great solution to the injuries, you don't have to be a massive guy. You don't have to have speed off the line and stuff like that, like you do in full contact. Yeah. It's a nice, I don't want to say alternative, but it's a nice variant.
Yeah.
Let's say. Yeah,
it's a different take on football, and it certainly can be entertaining. Yeah. The other thing I like about the original game, just from my time coaching down at like the minor levels here, is, like you said, you can find a spot for anybody on a football team. Yeah. You don't necessarily have to be a size or shape or anything. You can do it. Nope. And the one thing I will push back on you a little bit is when you said about the, flag, the only viable way for women. In Western Canada here, we do have a women's tackle football league.
Sure.
Some of the teams are not very good, but the top 2 or 3, it's on a level about what I would compare with junior football here. So that's just between high school and college. And they do play some entertaining football. So it is possible.
But I don't know. It's just not a game that you think of.
No, you definitely don't.
And there is a league in the U.S. as well. Actually, this started as the lingerie football.
I remember league. That. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of get the mentality there, but it's just not the kind of thing you think of. Look, it's not softball. It's not basketball. No. It's not soccer.
No,
it's not. It's not as easily adaptable. I mean, it's interesting because if from the start there had been women's football back in the old days, I think it would have developed now, but it was just when it first started to play in the 19th century, there just wasn't this outlet for women's sports at all.
Mind you, hockey is starting to close that gap with women, so you never know. And I will say this: I remember the lingerie league. The women's teams we have here are a lot closer to the longest yard than the lingerie leagues.
Yeah, that much is for sure.
We'll move on. The other 2 little bits of news, I don't know if they're connected or not. Actually, I'll flip them around the way I put them on the rundown here. 2 bits of news. The Red Blacks now have the longest losing streak in modern CFL history. Going back to last season, they've lost 15 games in a row. There are teams back from the, I think, 50s and 30s that have longer losing streaks, but in the modern game, it was only the Shreveport Pirates when they were in for a couple of years that had a 14-game losing streak. Yeah, so they're hopefully they get something straightened out, but every game they lose now will be adding to that record. And part 2 of the news, the Red Blacks have announced that they're changing the president of the Red Blacks. The Ottawa Sports and Entertainment, or whatever it is, Adrian, I'm terrible with pronouncing names here, Scaria, I believe, has been moved out of the president role. He's not leaving the organization, apparently. He's going to work with the Ottawa 67s, but they say they'll have a new president by the end of the year.
The 67s?
Something's got to change there. Yeah.
6-7.
6-7s, except it's far enough back it was 67s. I think it had something to do with Canada's centennial, to tell you the truth, but I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's the answer, right? I mean, fire the defensive coordinator, demote the president. Yeah, that'll solve it. You said that this is the longest losing streak in modern history. I'm going to push back on you.
Okay.
Old man. There is another longer streak, and that is Ryan Dinwiddie. Do you realize that this guy is on an 0-14 run? Do you realize that the last time he has won a game as head coach is September 13th of last year?
Yeah.
And that was on a last-second field goal against the last-place Elks in Week 15. He's looking at a year now without a win as a head coach. So, yeah, I definitely think that the secret is to fire the DC, is to fire the president. I mean, come on now. I mean, look, in the last 2 seasons as a head coach, Dinwiddie is 5-22.
Yeah.
This was pointed out by somebody else I would like to name drop, but I'm not sure who it was, on the Shotgun Sports Network, of which my show Spots from the Hip is a member, just in the group chat, pointing this out. I mean, what is happening here? What is the silence in CFL media on the coaching staff in Ottawa? I mean, yeah, it's clear for a few years they haven't really had the talent to really seriously compete, but this 0-9 is out of hand. This is out of hand this season.
And the thing is, Dinwiddie got a lot of credit as the quarterback whisperer. Look what he did with MBT. Look what he did with Kelly. Watching Mike Miller work with Kelly this year, I'm wondering how much of that was Dinwiddie and how much of it was Miller as the quarterback coach all along.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, these quarterbacks have taken a step back.
Yeah.
Now, over there in Toronto, Chad Kelly sat out the whole year last year, and he's had his issues this season. But it's not like the quarterback situation was awesome at Toronto when they were dropping their last 5 games, coming out of the bye. So I don't know. Something is amiss with the actual coaching staff here, the actual head coach in Ottawa. I mean, 0-9 is pretty unimaginable.
Yes.
I mean, we knew that they weren't going to be great this year, but wow.
With the salary cap, he's here there for at least 2 years. So I don't know. Maybe they do manage to rebuild in the second half of this year after shedding a lot of that high price talent. The rumor seems to be that his magic solution is to bid high on Kelly because his contract is up at the end of the year and bring him over. I have my doubts.
Wow. I don't know if I would do that if I were Chad Kelly. I might stay in Toronto at that point. I mean, Toronto probably going to make the playoffs this year. Well, I shouldn't say probably, but they could.
We'll talk about that later with the games because that got weird.
Yeah, sure did.
I don't know. Plus, the other thing is to get Kelly, they would have to spend so much money they just wouldn't be able to afford any other talent. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll let that figure that out. I'm also we do a couple of things that we talk about every week just to keep people sort of up to date real quick. We talk about the attendance, and it's been sticking pretty consistent between about averaging 21 to 24,000 this year, mostly. Same thing this week. Calgary was the lowest with just over 17,000. Surprise, Winnipeg was the highest. They had their 31 change they always get. Edmonton didn't get the 30,000 the Riders brought in, but they had 22. And the average was just under 23,000. So still looking good. The other thing we talk about is generally anybody who's been signed or released. Another quiet week. The only name that anybody will recognize possibly is the Red Black signed Benny Sapp III, who was a DB with Saskatchewan last year and then played a couple of games with Calgary earlier this year. So again, looking for whatever they can. They're hurting in the defensive backfield.
Not sure that's going to move the needle either, but
no. Well, it tells you something that it was a slow week when Benny Sapp III is the big name to mention.
Right. Yeah, the practice squad guy. Yeah.
especially after we've been spoilt being able to talk about Geno Lewis being released and
Yeah.
all the rest of it.
What do you think? Will Geno play again this year? Will anybody pick him up? I mean, he seemed to be an excellent candidate for the Riders now that they have 3-4 receivers on the 6 game at various points. I mean,
they're pretty much stuck with what they've got with having to go with Canadian receivers in 3 spots. And it's the Canadians that are hurt. So getting Geno in there, not necessarily the best. I would say my guess is he'll play sometime down the stretch when a good American receiver gets hurt.
Okay.
You know, and I'm like, this is not jinxing anybody, but I'm just saying, you know, to put some of the names that are out there, like a Keon Hatcher or a DeMonte Coxey, or, well, it won't be Austin Mack because he's not going back to Edmonton after the whole saga with him and Ed. So
no,
yes,
not likely.
But so we'll see. I think he will get back somewhere, but probably not right away. And that kind of takes us to, like I said, all the news. So the games, and I don't know how you felt. I didn't feel like it was a great week of CFL games. I mean, part of it is I didn't necessarily declare to you, but you can tell from behind me, I do bleed green a little bit. And so I'm not, that game was disappointing, but I understand why it happened completely. So that's not a problem. But the rest of the games, it didn't feel like a hugely exciting weekend to me. It felt kind of sloppy. I mean, we started with BC going into Calgary, and they won 30-26. But Calgary started out with a march and got a field goal. And then there was a McInnes catch that wasn't a catch that they challenged and got them off the field, and there was a punt, and they got another field goal. And then Jackson fumbled, and they got another field goal. And then they finally got a touchdown and missed the convert, and they were up 15-0, and it looked like it should be pretty much them. And then the Lions woke up somehow. I don't know. They outscored Calgary 13-8 in the second half. VA took a run up the middle, got hit, probably another head injury. And even though Calgary had a late game drive, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, this Calgary team, I just end up shaking my head repeatedly. I mean, last week, you know, I literally went back and watched the game again because I just couldn't understand what had happened. You know, Chad is giving up the ball, 6 times last week, and still Calgary loses. In this game, BC had 24 yards in the first quarter, okay? And 21 of that was on that third drive where they still had to punt after getting 1 first down. And this was under 2 minutes in the quarter. And like you said, Calgary goes up 15-0. Then all of a sudden, you know, we get some positive reinforcement, right? And Rourke goes to Jermaine Jackson for that 85-yarder, 1 play, making up basically, you know, half, 40% of his yards for the game. And it's one of these classic Nathan Rourkes this season where he's throwing it off his feet. You know, he's running away, but there was really no reason for him to jump and throw it, you know. And then that was enough to kill Calgary. You know, Calgary had no answers after, you know, going up 15-7. They had what? What is up with this Calgary team? The only thing that comes to mind is that I remember last year where Calgary closed the season on a 3-4 run. And in 4 of those games, literally, Vernon Adams produced no passing touchdowns. I just feel like we're going back to that. Vernon, you know, after years and years, a few with the Alouettes, of just, you know, chucking the ball willy-nilly, Brett Favre style, you know, creating yards with his feet, throwing for 4 touchdowns, but also 3 interceptions in a game. Now, all of a sudden, he's become pocket passer. He's become conservative on the downfield throws, and yet there's no numbers, you know, there's no production here. It's from one extreme to another. in Vernon's career. You feel like this past couple of seasons when he's really gained that self-control psychologically, that here's a guy that's destined to win the Grey Cup. I'm not so sure anymore. Suddenly, Calgary's in last place in that division. And okay, BC has, secret weapon Xander Horvat, the secret Hungarian out there in this game, 134 total yards. But that shouldn't be enough. That shouldn't be enough. Nathan Rourke has not been on the same page as his receivers all year long. And I mean, like I say, this whole game was about one or two long plays for the BC offense. Calgary has just been an enigma. All I know is now, in the past couple of seasons, they're on a 21-25 run after this long playoff run. And I don't know, maybe they should blow up this team. Yeah. I mean, you figure after parting ways with Bo Levi-Mitchell that maybe, it's a new era in Calgary. They're going to blow up the team. They're going to rework things, but they didn't. They just tried to make the transition, but maybe they should.
It could be time. I mean, the Nathan thing, Nathan is capable of making some spectacular plays.
Yeah.
But he doesn't scare me the way I thought he would after his first year up here and then he went south and he came back. He isn't consistent with it. VA is a completely different thing, which I do not understand.
Yeah.
This is a quarterback who earlier this year went out and hung 6 touchdowns and 54 points on the Toronto Argonauts and looked like he was just a surgeon out there. And 3-4 weeks later, with the same basic team, no real changes, 2 games in a row, he looks like he has no idea where to throw the ball.
Yep.
He just looks lost and holding it. And unfortunately, anybody who's been a fan of this since I started 3 years ago knows one of my big complaints is they never show us an all 24 look, or very rarely on the TV. So you can't really tell what the defenses are doing to stifle them, but something has changed. And I don't know if it's gotten his head. He gets into these slumps, it seems like. And
I mean, ever since he was with the Owls and blowing big leads or just, terrible fourth quarters, you're convinced that his problems are psychological. Purely. I mean, because clearly the guy has physical skills. I mean, he doesn't run like he used to, but he's got the skills. In the day, he could read the defense. He could tell when the play was broken and just take off. Now I don't know. Again, like the psychological issues are back. We thought that he was past this after the last couple of seasons, but maybe not. Maybe not. And again, you've got the Calgary defense just giving up points in bunches. I mean, again, somehow they generate 5 turnovers last week and still give up, 33 points?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, you can't have a defense like that if your offense isn't going to put up points in bunches, which, by the way, Calgary was doing.
Yeah.
Through the first 8 games.
Yeah.
They were averaging 33, 34 points a game.
Oh, it was huge. But you never know which VA you're going to get. This is what I feel like after last year. I said after the Toronto game a week and a half ago, okay, maybe he was off. It was a short week. Maybe Toronto found something to confuse him. I'll wait and see. But he does have kind of a history of once he starts to slump, he slumps. And that's what we're seeing now. And then for the rest of the season, what we saw last year, he may come back and have a fantastic game. Or he may just stink out the place, and you don't know.
Yeah, well, this season, he has to have more than a fantastic game. That defense is giving up 33 points a game.
Well, again, it's, what are
you going to do?
Good luck to the Calgary folks, but it's not looking exceptionally good. The only bright spot in their season right now is Winnipeg.
Yeah. And that was week 1. Oh, yes. No, that was the revenge.
Well, they lost that, but I mean, by bright spot, I mean the way Winnipeg's running right now, too. Oh, I will mention one other stat from this BC game, which was even more surprising, that they ended up with the win. Calgary didn't take a lot of penalties. BC took 9 of them for 94 yards. And yet, anyway.
I mean, Look, last week, Toronto wanted to give Calgary the game. They didn't take it. This week, BC wanted to give Calgary the game. They didn't take it. Calgary is going to look back on this season and say, well, we could have won this game. We could have won this game. We could have won this game.
But they didn't.
These poor guys could be in third place right now in the West.
Yeah.
Easy.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
They could have a winning record. But
people could be talking about them in the same breath as basically the Alouettes, the Elks, and the Riders.
Sure.
If they'd won 3 of those games that they should have won, but they don't, and that's why they're in that second tier.
That's so wild.
I mentioned Winnipeg, and that's the next game to talk about. Winnipeg 33 at Ottawa 21 sounds like a nice victory for Winnipeg, but it was Ottawa, and it wasn't just Ottawa. Ottawa is snake bitten now. Not only are they finding new ways to lose, the football gods are finding new ways to take the victories away from them. I mean, 2 plays to me that just absolutely wrapped up the Red Black season completely is they get a nice look into tight end Johnny Robinson. He's open, rumbling down the field. He's not going to score, but he's going to get it down to probably the 10, 5-yard line, and his leg blows up on him. They haven't said what it is, but just mid-stride, he goes down. And then the
that
second
was
one,
really suspicious. Yeah, if you're a gambler, you're looking at that going, wait a minute. Especially since he just came right up. I mean, you have to sit out 3 plays when
he didn't get back in the game. He was out, and he was a DNP at practice this week. So it is something, but I'm hoping it's not Achilles. I'm hoping it's something in a knee or something like that just twigged on him. But we'll see, because I like him. I think he's a good player. But then the other play that they had, they have a touchdown wide open in the end zone, and Mayer puts it off the upright, which you can't plan on doing that.
Yep.
And those 2 things, along with Ottawa's other ways of losing games, got combined with the fact that, hey, Tommy Condell has started using Brady Oliveira. It took him 7 games, but he's discovered he's on the roster, and he used him effectively. And between the 2 of those things, Winnipeg got the win.
Yeah, that's what I noted the most. I mean, I guess it's no longer surprising for me that Ottawa's going to lose these games, but it kind of felt like, after that first quarter, I mean, bam, Ottawa gave 2 sacks. But then after that, it was 2021 all over again. Brady Oliveira ended the game with 154 total yards, passing and receiving, making an effort. Yes, the defense did give up a couple of more sacks, but on the other hand, the Winnipeg offense had no turnovers in the game. They went on the 26-6 run beginning in the second quarter, going 2 minutes left in the game. So basically, they kept the opposition out of the end zone for what? That would be 43 minutes. So, pretty impressive there. Winnipeg looked good, but, I mean, I don't want to bag too much, but it's the Red Blacks in 2026. Winnipeg, to me, it's outstanding that Winnipeg is actually holding on to third place. They're holding on to a winning record. I mean, I picked these guys for last place at the beginning of the season. You figure they've got to turn into the pillar of salt eventually here. The stagecoach is going to become a pumpkin at some point, but I guess not yet. Zach Collaros came back, was not superstar, but was not bad. Had a nice solid game. Didn't make any dumb mistakes. I mean, he held on to the ball a little bit too much in that first quarter. I think in that first quarter, it wasn't so much the offensive line. It was just, Zach holding on to the ball for too long.
Yes.
I mean, the truth is Ottawa hasn't had a real pass rush in years now. So it's not about the offensive line getting beat. So, but besides from that, I mean, Winnipeg, apparently they're still capable of playing solid ball. And since BC and Calgary have been like a heart attack this season in terms of consistency, Winnipeg looks like a solid playoff team.
Yeah, I expect that they'll be in, whether it's in third or in the crossover, depending on what happens with BC. But the thing is, it's in some way, Zach was okay, my own feeling, for whatever it's worth, people can disagree with me. I think Zach's been overrated for the last 2 or 3 years. I think his best days are behind him. And frankly, it's amazing he came back in because he was out of the game for a while after Cormier hit him on that blindside blitz, square in the back, clean hit. He did not see that coming. He went down hard. I thought he was done, especially with his neck problems. But he came back in and finished off the game. And they got the win. So
I'm not sure. I don't know if I would call him overrated. Past the prime, yeah, of course.
No.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's not the ageless wonder that Trevor Harris seems to be, for example. But I mean, clearly, he's still a team leader. He's still a smart guy. I mean, again, they did not turn the ball over in this game at all. 0.
He still reads defenses really well.
Yep.
There's things he does well. When I say overrated, I say that because I see way too many people talking about him as if he was Zach in the prime of his career.
Right.
Especially when he was out and then they struggled with Brown in there and they struggled with Ellsworth's. Zach is back. He's the savior. Well, Zach's good, but he's not Zach, what Zach used to be. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I thought, for whatever it's worth, is that they're where the Elks were 3 or 4 years ago. Games, if it's anywhere near close, they're tightening up and they're making bad decisions and making stupid mistakes, including on the coaching side. Dinwiddie twice went for 2-point converts when he was down by 2 points. Kick the convert. It's a long game. Keep it going. You get down towards the end of that game. It ended up as, well, where was it? It was a 12-point game. 2 converts in there, it would be a 10-point game, and that's a different thing with 4 or 5 minutes left in it. Anything else worth talking about in this one?
I'm surprised we got that much out of it.
So then the very close game that started Saturday, where Edmonton barely went over Toronto 42-12.
Yeah. Well, you take away that 28-point run.
Yeah.
Now it's a 14-12 game. Unfortunately, there was a 28-point run. I felt like 2 things were happening in this game. As I mentioned before, Edmonton in week 9 had that futile game against Saskatchewan when they just couldn't score from the red zone. They really got torn up by the Montreal in week 10. And I felt like on one hand, they really, really, really took it out on the Argos. But in a year when, to this point, defenses have not been turning the ball over in the CFL, you have the Argos. Last week, 6 turnovers, could have been more. This week, 6 turnovers. And it's not just like you put everything on Chad, who threw 5 picks last week. I mean, because this was an equal opportunity mistake machine in Toronto. 6 turnovers, 2 of them were 2-and-outs. 2 of them were interceptions. 2 of them were fumbles, including 1 on special teams. I mean, this team is like, it's not just Chad Kelly, although you could put a lot on Chad Kelly, because the truth is there could have been 2 more turnovers in this game. 1 on a Chad Kelly fumble that was recovered by his own player, and 1 on a Chad Kelly interception that was overturned on a penalty. So you easily could have had 8 turnovers in this game. This is what's going to kill Toronto. The amazing thing is Hamilton is the roster is so depleted on Hamilton that Toronto might end up in 2nd place in this Eastern Division.
Yeah.
If there's ever an incentive for a crossover in the West, it's Toronto. Because Toronto is vulnerable. Now, I guess you can put some of this on the lack of home games, but there's a limit. I don't know what's going on in the CFL. I don't know if it's the game clock, but like I said, defenses are not turning it over this season in general, except against Toronto. Yeah. Toronto is just giving this ball away repeatedly. If they can solve that, this might be a decent team. But it seems weird to say after a 30-point loss. But Jesus, they turned it over last time 6 times and they won.
I think they play shootout football. So we'll find a way to outscore the other team, and if we do, great. If we don't, mind you, Edmonton's the outlier on the defense. They've been They didn't get any turnovers for, I think, the first 2 or 3 weeks, but they've been consistent since that. They're way up on everybody else. But the line that I was using was, I was saying Toronto was running a very balanced offense. They were turning over the ball in every phase of the game, every phase of the offense, passing, running, not getting first downs. And
absolutely.
Frankly, Edmonton opened up their first drive with a fumble that I think cost them a field goal against Toronto, but that was really almost the only mistake they made, or obvious one. From there, they just They did a fantastic job of pressuring Kelly, and they didn't let him out of the pocket, which is where he's been beating people. He gets outside and then gets some of those deep passes when the scrambling's going on.
Edmonton had basically played 6 quarters of losing football in a row. And then when they turned it over on the first drive, you're like, oh God, they're just going to fall off the table here. But nope. It looks like that might be over. Unfortunately for the rest of the West, I think Edmonton's dry period may be over. I mean, this is one thing I've been pointing this out on the show this season. There's this tendency, I guess it's recency bias, but there's this tendency in the CFL. There was a couple of seasons, well enough, where the Riders came out of the gate 6-1, whatever. And you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest team ever. But this is the CFL. You have these runs of 4 or 5 weeks where, you're 1-3 or you're 3-1 and everybody's buying or selling on you. And then, you come back. I mean, this is just the way that the CFL works. Mm-hmm. You just have these runs. I feel like, however, the Edmonton bad streak may be over. I think that was it. I think, 0-2 and a bad first quarter in this game. Now, for the rest of the way, they should be at least, 750?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yes.
Probably lose other games, but not badly. Even with the teams below that top 3, there are teams in this league that if they have a good day will challenge Edmonton. But it's not going to happen consistently. They're not costing themselves games. They're not losing games. Occasionally, someone may win one over them, but they're not losing them the way they used to. Mm-hmm.
Until this week, correct me if I'm wrong, but until this week, the top 3 teams in the league, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, and Montreal, had only lost against themselves, right? That was it. Like, they're not losing to anybody else in this league, these 3
That's
teams.
not true. The Riders found a way to lose to Toronto.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I've bled green for so long, and nothing surprises me with the Riders anymore.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate loss, like this week's loss.
Yeah, it was. And exactly. And that one I didn't understand. This week's one I kind of understand, but we'll get to that. I always like smart football plays. And Edmonton, when Kenneth Logan Jr. went down, they juggled their backfield and they brought Trevor Reed in from the practice squad. And I think if I remember right, they had him starting at the boundary halfback. Well, towards the end of the game, there's a tip ball and J.J. Ross gets a pick 6 out of it, which was a beautiful interception and run. But the reason I mentioned Reed, the only person who had a chance to stop Ross at all was Kelly himself. Coming down to it, Reed was coming down on him. Traditional football, you would have taken the shot at the quarterback, laid him out big time, and taken a 15-yard penalty and cost yourself a touchdown. He did the smart thing. He just ran in front of him and slowed down. Smart football.
Yeah. And it was funny, too, because Kelly had no intention of actually trying for the tackle, it looked like. And it looked like he was trying to draw the foul.
Yeah.
It looked like he was trying to draw that hit. But no, Reed wasn't falling for it. So, yeah, well put. Yeah. Smart play by Reed. Yep.
It was. And the only other thing that I have to mention, this is in honor of MJ, who's not here this week, because she loves pointing out what she calls the TSN shade. The way when something goes wrong for somebody, they lock a camera on them for the next 10 minutes. And they did that to Coxie after the tip that was intercepted for that touchdown.
Yeah.
They just would not leave him alone. And I mean, I don't need to see how bad he feels. I can tell. Full credit to Pickett over there, obviously doing the best he could to pick him up. But do we really need to see that over and over?
Yeah, well, he had what, he had turned it over previously to that, or he had missed the touchdown catch?
No, that was the one where that was the pick six. The ball was to him slightly behind, and he bobbled it a bit and tipped it up straight to Ross.
Yeah. But prior to that, he had another play too.
Yeah, you're right. There was another one that didn't go well. I think a drop that was an obvious should have been a catch.
MJ is completely justified in her reactions. I remember how they were teeing off on McManus the week prior to that, where, this was like, he's faking an injury.
She had stuff to say about that.
Yeah, why won't they? Why won't they just quit it with that? Yeah, I mean, so
I don't know.
She was well justified in that for sure. Yeah. For sure.
So they've got some tendencies that are there. I mean, not this game so much, but last week, that BC debacle against Hamilton where they did win, but the offense was terrible. Glenn Suter, I mentioned this last week, but I'll say it again. He was raving about Rourke the entire time. Rourke did nothing wrong. Receiver, the ball, those were all drops. Yeah, they were 3 feet away from the receiver, but it was a drop, It was like that. And the other thing I've noticed this week is he seems to have become the agent for, I can't remember the first name, McKenna, the new linebacker for BC that's been in there for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He cannot stop talking about how fantastic he is. And I've seen the guy make a couple of good plays, but I don't know how that comes if you're not on commission.
Sometimes, yeah, exactly. I got to say, look, Suits has the knowledge and whatnot, but there are some weeks when he makes me miss Rod Black. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, Suter,
he can be very good. And then I get the feeling there are some games where, he might have been out the night before or something, and I'm just coasting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my feeling on it. Yeah, he's got the Troy Aikman thing going on there. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was Edmonton and Toronto. And so then we had the game that was supposed to be the other sure lock of the weekend with Saskatchewan going into Hamilton. Hamilton had Harrison Frost in at quarterback. And it didn't work for Saskatchewan, and we'll talk about why. But yeah, it was Hamilton 26, Saskatchewan 19. The game got bookended by Harris interceptions. His very first pass of the game got tipped and went to Katsantonis. And then his very last throw of the game, when they were down 7 and deep in their own end with a minute to go, he threw into triple coverage. And I think it was Stubblefield that picked that one off. But to me, we can talk about a bunch of other things. This came down to the fact that Saskatchewan offense with Harris is very much a timing offense and a ball control. He's throwing to where the player is going to be, when it's going to be. And with the missing Emelis and KSB, you could see it wasn't it. They had 4 or 5 drives that got stopped on second down when either the pass or the player wasn't in the right spot. And that was true somewhat last week against Ottawa, and they got away with it. Hamilton has, regardless of what Hamilton's offense is doing, Hamilton has a fantastic defense, and you couldn't get away with that kind of miscommunication. And I really think that was the game. I'm not surprised by it. Mind you, the other thing that happened, if Frost had stayed in there, I suspect the Riders would have still won, because Frost came out at the half, maybe injured, maybe not. They were coy about that. And Ford went in and did what Ford's capable of doing, started running around, getting outside, had a fantastic pass to Carrick Wheatfall deep in the end zone. I think it was about a 50, 55-yard pass that Wheatfall laid out for. As good as the pass was, the catch was better, And now, I will say this, I do not complain about calls costing you the game, and it's entirely possible that my green blood sort of had my vision a little bit impaired. But after that touchdown, not during any of the replays, but when they came back from the commercial and they showed the final shot of that, after it was all said and done, it looked to me like the ball moved a little bit when he landed. I'm not absolutely certain that was a catch. I mean, they got it, and full credit to them. And I was in a mind frame, I didn't even go, I'm going to rewind and see that again. I just thought, okay, it doesn't matter, it was there. But it looked to me like maybe it moved.
Don't you?
That could also be my vision.
Don't you hate that about modern football?
Yeah.
where you have to say, I don't know if that was a catch.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. This makes me crazy about modern football.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
before the replay, that would have been a catch. No question about it. And even at that, I mean, it was a great effort. And if it moved, it didn't move a whole lot. So don't take anything away from it. But there it was.
Clearly, Trevor Harris is not throwing to his receiving core. He doesn't have the guys that he wants out there anymore. In fact, they lost another one in this game.
Yeah, maybe. I'm waiting to see the reports on that. He went back in after he went down, but I'm afraid no injury reports yet for them this week.
Yeah, I was wondering about that coming into the show today. But I mean, for me, this was all about the fourth quarter. What happened in the fourth quarter? I mean, you talk about Hamilton defense. McManus was dominant in that fourth quarter. He had a couple of sacks, I think, in the fourth quarter. He certainly had one to start the fourth quarter. But I actually took notes on this, just what happened in the fourth quarter. And you talk about Trey Ford. Well, this happens a lot in football, where you either start the game with the unknown factor at quarterback, or you bring in the second stringer in the second half, like in this game. And the defense just didn't prep for this guy, especially with a guy like Trey Ford, who's completely different from any other quarterback. Clearly, that's the case with Harrison Ford. Actually, if you combine the two quarterbacks, you get Harrison Ford. But yeah, I mean, he's clearly a different quarterback. But look, in the fourth quarter, he didn't run at all. He ran once. He ran once for the first down. He had like a 11, 12-yard gain. But they didn't even need that, the way they were moving against Saskatchewan. He was just pocket passing the whole time. Twice, Wheatfall was left open enough in the end zone. He could have hit him a second time.
Yes, should have.
And he just overthrew him a little bit, but Wheatfall was wide open. What was up with the Rider defense? And Trevor Harris is going 2 and out. There was one drive where he almost throws the interception twice, and then it ends up being a 2 and out anyway. But, I mean, just what happened to the Riders in that fourth quarter? The Ticats were moving the ball at will, which they haven't done this season since Bo Levy went out.
Well, I can tell you what I think happened. Even though it wasn't Ford running, I think it was still the impact of him, because a big part of the Saskatchewan defense, which hasn't been as good this year, but is still there, is their ability to rush with 4 and put pressure on quarterbacks. After Ford came in the third quarter and got a couple of those runs that he got outside, if you look, the Saskatchewan rush was much more about containing him in the pocket than actually pushing hard to get to the quarterback. And that gave a little bit more time for plays to develop. And if he was as bad as a lot of people want him to be, and if he really couldn't throw from the pocket, it wouldn't have mattered. But he was pretty damn good out of the pocket. I think that's what happened. I think that's why the back end didn't hold up, is he had too much time. The other thing is Roundtree got a couple of reasonable runs, not fantastic, but 8-10 yards that he wasn't getting earlier. You've got to honor the edge in case Trey's going to pull it, and that gets you an extra 3 or 4 yards a run. My opinion, anyway.
The Riders had, I believe that they were second against the run going into this game this year, and I don't know. They just fell apart in the fourth quarter. Last year especially, they were known for getting the turnover in the fourth quarter. They were known for shutting down offenses in the fourth quarter. But wow, they were just nowhere in this game in the fourth.
But keep in mind, though, Hamilton scored 26 points. 95% of the games this year, 26 points is going to lose you a game. So,
right.
So full credit to that Hamilton defense for what they did to allow the offense to score enough to win. Like you said, they had turnovers, they had 2 and outs and 2 and outs and 2 and outs. That is a very good defense that the Tiger Cats have.
Yep. It may just actually get them that second place spot in the East.
It's possible, depending on what they do with their quarterbacks. But the other thing, though, is that the Riders have been much better this year in the penalty department. And this game, they took 8 of them for 107 yards. Most of their games, they've been under 50 yards of penalties. And
that was another thing, too. Not so much last year, but Actually, I should say in the first half of last year as well. But this has been one thing that's been characterizing the Riders in these past few years is just these dumb penalties.
Yep.
And they had a couple in the fourth. They had a couple in the fourth quarter of this game.
Yep.
You know, I thought we were done with that. I thought the Riders were done with that, but nope. The dumb emotional penalties, you know, really just hurt them, you know, in the fourth quarter, in the second half in general, but in the fourth quarter.
I agree.
Just took them out of this game. They can bounce back though. They can bounce
they will.
back. Aren't they on bye this week?
No, they have BC, which should prove interesting because another week between Harris and the receivers, will that make a difference? The one thing Mace has done a good job of is, you can see over his 3 years there, is when they make mistakes, they learn from them, but they don't haunt them. They're very good at, okay, we fix this and then we flush it. So spoiler alert for later in the show, I'm going to pick them against BC, of course, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. A lot will depend on if the offense is able to spark it all. The other thing is, frankly, they were down to the third string running back. They had a rookie who's straight out of college in there. Even Conley is not AJ Ouellette, but he's made some nice things. I imagine you got that spin hurdle that he did a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So, you know, you like having that in there, but they didn't even have him. So who knows? Anything else to talk about there or? Okay. So a couple other things here to get to it. Normally GT does our power rankings.
Yeah. I was wondering what you were going to do about that.
Well, I'm trying to talk MJ into it, but only because I do strange things, but we'll see what happens. This week, I'm going to do them. Okay. And this week, I'm expecting comments when I post them on some of the social medias because everybody's going to think I'm an idiot, but let's start them out. Montreal. Well, Montreal has certainly looked like the best team through most of the season. And even if Edmonton had played even better than they did, you don't lose your spot on a bye. I figure that's a rule. So Montreal holds number 1. Edmonton had a great game against Toronto. They stay in at number 2.
Yep.
The Riders, the way that their offense is, if they can't fix that, it's so troublesome. And I was looking to maybe even drop them out of the number 3 spot, but I can't because there's just nobody else I can see that even as injured and vulnerable as the Riders are, I don't see anybody else above them right now, not on a consistent basis.
Well, okay. I was thinking about this just in case you called on me to do this. This is a power poll. This is about trends. And I would put Winnipeg number 3. Right now, after last week, I would put Winnipeg number 3. Okay, Saskatchewan takes care of business against BC this week. Put them back up at 3. But right now, after that win this week, I know it was Ottawa, but Winnipeg looked good. They looked like they're back in form. So right now, and they're only 1 game back of Saskatchewan now. They're only 1 game back.
They are.
And so, you know, right now this week, I would have Winnipeg at 3, Saskatchewan at 4. Just by default.
I can respect that. As you'll see, we have different thoughts on that because Saskatchewan's weaker, but I haven't seen anybody else pick up enough. My number 4 is BC. And I'm doing this, like you say, it's a power. It's right now, what have I seen and what are their chances of winning the next game kind of thing to me. So how much do I fear them going into the next week? Okay. I'm going to put Hamilton at 5, but that would change considerably if they go back to Harrison Frost. I would drop them down to the bottom if they do. If they stick with Trey, and I've been saying this all along, I think Trey needs a chance to have an offense tailored to him. I think he's shown that he can do it, and he needs to have some faith put in him. Instead, he needs to be told, you know, you're going to get 2 or 3 games, and no matter what. I don't have any trust they're doing that, but because they ended up with Trey, they get the number 5 spot. Calgary, again, hard to decide what they're going to be. They don't look dangerous, but we'll still give them number 6. I've got, at number 7, I've got the Red Blacks. Only because a team with nothing to lose is dangerous. Okay. A team that can do whatever they want, and it's not going to matter to their season. If I'm playing them next week, how good do I feel? Well, it's Montreal, so I don't think they're going to worry, but any other team, you know, I'd be a bit worried about. So Ottawa at 7, I've got Winnipeg at 8. And frankly, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, that will move up a lot if Condell continues to use Brady. But what I've seen is in any games, anytime they're tight, he goes back. Remember, he started the season saying this offense is going to run through Tim White. And we saw how that worked. If he goes back to that attitude, they deserve to be at 8. If he keeps using Brady consistently, they could easily move up, and I would agree with you, but it's the faith in that I don't have. And I've got Toronto at number 9 just because they are so Jekyll and Hyde almost. They can either put up 40, 50 points and outshoot you, or they can put up 12, 15 points and give up 40. So that's going to create lots of controversy.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty wild. Let's get MJ in here.
Yeah.
doing these things. I think she'd like your placement of Hamilton, but yeah.
Said you're ready to go, so why don't you give us what yours were?
Yeah, I might say that you're trolling a bit here.
Maybe a little bit. There might be that much in it.
Okay, like I said, Montreal 1, Edmonton 2. I think that's beyond question. Right now, I have Winnipeg 3, Saskatchewan 4. Just because, again, Winnipeg's coming off a win. Saskatchewan is not. I can't put Winnipeg coming off a win below 0-9 Ottawa for sure. For sure. So I'm putting Winnipeg at 3, Saskatchewan at 4. After that, I'm tempted to say, who cares?
Yeah.
Because wow. I mean, people always say that they want parity in the CFL. Well, you're getting it right now. Winnipeg 5-4, BC 4-5, Toronto 4-5, Hamilton 4-6, Calgary 4-6. Are any of these teams impressive? Not really. Not really right now. So I'm tempted to say, who cares? But in the spirit of things, I'll go Hamilton at 5, coming off a win, coming off an upset win.
Yeah.
I'll put them at 5. It's tempting to go Toronto at 6, but instead I think you have to give it to BC, again, coming off a win. So let's put BC at 6. Now it gets tough. Look, I'm saying Ottawa at 9, no matter what. They still haven't won. I definitely can't put them at 7 over a winning team, over 5-4 Winnipeg. I can't do it. They're coming off a loss. So on a power poll, nope, no way. I don't know. I am so uncomprehending of what is happening in Calgary that I guess I'll put them at 8 and Toronto at 7. Because I feel like it's wild to say, but I feel like Toronto is winning games, not last week, obviously, but when they win games, it's despite Chad Kelly and this offense giving up turnovers. If Toronto, just imagine where Toronto would be if they weren't such a turnover machine. They'd have at least a couple of more wins that you can point to. Just right off the top of your head, they would have won more games. And they beat your Riders this season. Now, that was earlier on. But so, yeah, I guess I'll have to go Toronto at 7, Calgary at 8, Ottawa at 9. But yeah, I can't believe how you're shafting Winnipeg.
People may say that's because I'm a Saskatchewan fan, but they'd be wrong.
You're trolling.
Anyone that knows my history knows Winnipeg's my second favorite team. I'm from Manitoba originally. So they're my number 2 team. I don't generally go after them. I don't know about trolling, but this is why they don't let me do the power rankings, because I do like to be controversial. Anyway.
I mean, they're coming off a win against the team that you have ranked higher than them. You're living up to the old man yelling at clouds moniker.
That's what I'm here for.
All right.
Okay.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I like that exercise.
Now we're gonna pick our winners for this week. I hope you'll jump in because MJ's already given me hers, and with yours that'll give us. There's 3 people, so the podcast picks who goes with whatever the majority is. But before we get to that, I also, just to give people sort of as much information as I can for their fantasy and pick them, I do a quick run through anybody notable on the injury reports. So with Ottawa, we had Fry, who's one of their DBs, Lang from the D-line who didn't play last week, and Pearl from the O-line who didn't play last week not even just did not participate. They've been marked as out, and so is Giovanni Robinson, who had the sniper take him down last week. So something there. And they also had in their defense Dante Ruffin and Niles Morgan as questionable. So if they're playing without those people, they're already against Montreal. So you might as well start saying that they all have to wear 30-pound shoes too, because how much can you stack against them?
Yeah.
Montreal, really nobody of note. Scott the third is out, but look at how Tice, I can never pronounce the name. Look what he's doing. Scott not being in won't hurt them, and one of the fullbacks, Dallaire, is out. Mm-hmm. Winnipeg, we just did not participate. Oliveira, Dembski, and Eli from the O-line did not participate. I expect they'll all play. That's sort of a standard O'Shea thing. Give them a day early in that. Edmonton only had Logan Jr. on the did not participate, and I think he's longer term, so I don't expect he'll be back in. Hamilton, Tarnowski at the receiver did not participate. But the other thing that was interesting is they've got Bo listed back on the injury report. He was listed as did not participate, but he's listed. So I'm assuming that he's off the 6th game. Are they going to put him back on it again, or what's going to happen there? I don't know. Could make a difference. If they can hold themselves, if they can win against Toronto in one of these 2 games that are coming up and win 1 or 2 more, and then they get Bo back for the last maybe 3 games of the season, could make a huge difference. But anyway, that's speculating. Toronto, Hunter from the O-line, Kongbo from the D-line, and receiver Polk did not participate. And then Amos, Bolden, and Maitel were all limited. And of course, Saskatchewan and BC, because they played the Sunday this week, there were no reports from them. So that takes us to these games. I think the first one we don't probably have to spend a lot of time on. Ottawa at Montreal. I'll let you pick first.
Well, this is football, so I often like to talk about the point spread as well. Point spread opened at 12.5. Montreal, 12.5 point favorite. Now, after hearing about the injury report, after seeing what Ottawa did this week, your only question is, can Montreal win by 3 touchdowns? Never mind 2 touchdowns. So I have to take Montreal for the win. For the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to take Ottawa in an upset, but I just can't see it this week. I just can't. So pick 'em, Montreal. Minus the points, probably Montreal. I'm not even going to give Ottawa the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. So,
I actually picked Ottawa last week. I thought they might pull it off against Winnipeg, but I was wrong.
So did my co-host. Yeah.
And I'm not about to do that again. So Montreal, definitely. and MJ, like I said, centers in her comment, Alexander at home is unstoppable. Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then we have the next one here, which is, I'm switching back and forth here. Oh, yeah, Winnipeg going into Edmonton.
Yep.
And
okay.
Not surprisingly, I'm going with Edmonton. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to take Edmonton. Edmonton is minus 5.5. Just given the smarts of Winnipeg, I wouldn't be surprised if they closed this gap. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost by less than a touchdown. But again, like I said previously, I think Edmonton has bottomed out as much as they're going to bottom out this season. Winnipeg is a 5-4 team. A lot of times you just have to look at the standings and say to yourself, is it believable that this Winnipeg team is 5-5? And the answer to that is absolutely. Yes, I believe it. They kind of look like a 500 team. So yeah, all things being equal, I'm going to take Edmonton. Again, Edmonton has really only lost to the best teams in the league this year. And Winnipeg is not one of the best teams in the league, despite my number 3 power rankings point. But Edmonton's playing at home. All things being equal, Edmonton wins this game. Does MJ have Edmonton in this game?
Yes, her comment was Cody's playing lean and mean. She's taken Edmonton. And she has a unique perspective because she's a Hamilton fan who lives in Edmonton. So all her football she watches live is Edmonton football. But okay, Tiger Cats and Argos. I'll let you pick first on this one again.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you kind of sold me on Hamilton defense. I don't know if McManus has a revenge kick against Toronto. I don't know if he's going to want to get back at his old team. But you kind of sold me on Hamilton defense. Hamilton defense is playing very well. They're starting to look like one of the premier units in the CFL. And Toronto just turns over the ball too much. And if Polk, who at one point was the leader in receiving touchdowns, is not playing in this game or is not playing at 100%.
Did not participate. So he's one way or another. He's not fully healthy.
Right. So, what is Toronto going to do except turn over the ball against a very hungry Hamilton defense? Now, the question for me is, who the hell do you start at quarterback in Hamilton, and how will they perform? If Trey Ford is the starter, I'm not going to expect much out of him. But I am going to expect Toronto to turn it over a lot. So if Hamilton can keep a cool head, on offense, they'll win this game. So I'll take Toronto's 4.5-point favorites, but I'll take Hamilton in the upset.
Okay, this is one I struggle with a lot. I think it comes down to the quarterback. And again, some people say that I'm too hyped on Trey. It's not that. I see all the flaws in his game. I see the potential that I think could be there if he ever got the full chance. But to me, the difference is at this point, you're not going to win this game. As much as Toronto's going to turn the ball over, you're not going to win this game playing standard football with the ability level of any quarterback you have on that roster. There's just nobody who can go in there right now and consistently make the reads and make the passes. So if you put Trey in, at least you've got the chance for the off-schedule plays, which do not exist with Frost and Dolegala. They're just going to stand in the pocket and do what they can. So I think I've got to pick. I'm going to pick the Argos and hope they start.
Wow.
Or no, sorry, I'm going to pick. I did that backwards. Sorry, my bad. I'm going to pick the Ticats and hope they start Ford. If they don't, I think Argos may win this. But on the other hand, like I was hyping this Hamilton defense. Don't forget, earlier this year, without Bo in there, they played, and Toronto missed the last-minute fully makeable field goal that cost them the game. But that field goal would have given them, 14 or 17 points, I think? So it wasn't like they ran up a lot of points against Hamilton.
Nope. But they were turning the ball over in that game, too, if I recall correctly. So, again, like Toronto just can't stop turning it over. And Toronto secondary is not that good.
No.
They've not been playing well lately. So
you see it in Toronto. You see it in BC. High-priced quarterbacks and secondaries that they can't afford a real high level of talent in. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Anyway,
even Calgary. Even Calgary.
Calgary to a degree, yes. Yeah, but those two are the ones, like, I'm not sure. Zach's a bit of an anomaly because he makes good money too, but Winnipeg has kept people there with however they do it on lower salaries. So it's starting to cost them now. But anyway, I'm digressing. MJ, surprise, says Argos suck, Ticats win.
Now that's analysis. Nice.
And the last one is the Lions and the Riders, and I gave my spoiler alert. I don't know the Riders are going to win this game, but I don't know that they can't, so I will pick them. How about you?
Okay. Weird things at the sports book here. I know that you all don't emphasize the gambling too much, and in fact, you're tired of the advertising for the gambling. But I think that this one is important to look at. Look, BC opened at 1.5-point underdogs. And at most sports books, they flipped to a 1.5-point favorite. Now, I don't know what the Sharps are seeing here. I don't know why there's a 3-point flip in BC's favor. But I don't see it. Do I believe that Saskatchewan is going to lose 2 games in a row to teams with losing records? I mean, as you well know, the Riders in recent seasons, last year accepted, have fallen off a bit in the second half of the season. But I don't know. the Sharps are telling us something, but I'm going to go with Saskatchewan. BC has got to prove, and Nathan Rourke have got to prove that they can be consistent, that they can put together a full game. Now, yeah, Saskatchewan is hurting on the offense. They're hurting in the run game. They're hurting at wide receiver. Not much depth there. But I don't know. BC offense, with the number of 2-and-outs they had against Calgary, which is not exactly a potent defense. Last week, I think that this game, what's the over-under? The over-under on this is 61.5. Your best bet of the week is to take the under in this game. There's no way this is going to be a 31-30 game. Sorry. I'm not buying that at all. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I think that Saskatchewan this week will shut them down in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to take the Riders. I'm going to take the Riders in what is now the upset.
Okay, yes. And MJ said winning is now the vibe. She's going with the Lions. So she disagrees with us. Yeah, I don't really follow the betting lines. I don't do any of the betting and that. But I have a feeling what probably happened is there were probably an awful lot of people that saw that Saskatchewan loss and possibly overinterpreted it a bit, and then suddenly saw that they were still a points favorite against BC and thought, I'm going to rush in. So I think there was probably a lot of money that jumped in on BC right away and on the spread there, and that's
this may yet
it around.
This may yet flip again because what tends to happen is the Rider fans make a lot of bets on their team.
Yeah.
Now look, I'll just say this because I say this on every podcast when I'm on for the first time, is look, I'm not saying gamble. Okay. I am not sponsoring gambling. I know that it's difficult for some people. Some people have a problem, etc. But here's the thing. I think it's important to talk about the lines because, take your pick. Nathan Rourke goes out there. He has a bad game. They lose. He's going to get paid the same amount.
Yeah.
Okay. The sports books, if they lose money.
Yes.
Okay. So these guys have a lot more. In some respects, they have a lot more on the line to get these predictions correct. Right. So I do think it's important to take the opinion of Vegas or the sports books, however you want to refer to it. So only in that respect do I mention these things. Plus, when I was a kid, it was fashionable to actually report the lines on the networks when you were playing these games. It does give a good measure as to what the experts think the game will look like. And again, the experts seem to think that this game is going to have a lot of points, and I'm not buying that one. I'm going to second guess the pros on that one because even if this is a blowout either way, I can't see 62 points in this game. Sorry. I know it's been a high-scoring season this year, but not this one. Not the way BC offense has been playing and not the way Saskatchewan offense looks right now. So.
Exactly. And the Saskatchewan defense is still, they've got some injuries, but they've filled in. Their depth has helped them a lot. So yeah, I'm not impressed with the BC defense, but on the whole gambling thing, it's not that I'm morally opposed to gambling. People can do whatever they want. I don't because it's burning my money. I know I'm wrong as much as I'm right when it comes to, as much as I like to think I'm a bit of a football guy, I will get this wrong a whole lot. But I do agree with you about the sports books do not want to lose money.
Yep.
So if I'm going to put any credence on what they say, I put it on pretty much on where the line drops at the start of the week, unless there's a major injury or report or something like that. Once the bettors start getting involved and it balances one way or the other, who knows what it'll mean. But if they're coming out, like I think you said, Edmonton was a big point spread over Winnipeg.
Yeah, 5.5.
Yeah. See, so if it comes out like that, that tells me that, the people who are, for whom gambling is a business, not entertainment, are saying Edmonton pretty safe bet.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the thing about the Montreal game is just like, you're going to go to pick them this week, and that ought to be 98-2 at least, Montreal picking. It's just a question of how much, right? At that point, maybe Ottawa could keep this close. Maybe, Montreal guys will party a bit too much. They're playing at home. And by the way, just one other thing to point out. Keep in mind that Toronto is still undefeated at home.
Yes, yes.
So this could be their first loss at home this season if they lose, which I do have them doing.
Even technically, I think, because I can't remember. No, I think they lost their home game in Winnipeg, but they won their home game in Regina. So,
yeah.
Even if you're counting all the home games, I think they're still 2-2 or something.
Yeah, the neutral field home games,
Yeah.
right? If you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Nah. They're 1-0 in Toronto. That's on the line this week. Same with Montreal. The two undefeated.
It should be
home
fun,
teams.
and I'm just happy Davis Alexander's back for my fantasy team because I didn't pick him 2 weeks ago. I should have. My last two quarterbacks have been VA and Trevor.
Oh,
it's not going well. Anyway, that's about it. I really want to thank you for coming on here, Oz.
Sure.
You saved our bacon.
That
You
was
made
great.
this has been a fun show. I really enjoyed talking with you and what you brought to it. It's again a different point of view that we wouldn't always have. Anything where folks find you on social media, and you were saying you're doing shots from the hip now. Is that YouTube, podcatchers? Where do people find you now?
Yeah. Social media has been a real turnoff for me. My president ruins everything in life. And so I've been really turned off to social media. I've had enough of that. So yeah, basically, if you'd like to hear some more stuff about the CFL, might be some gambling information there too as well. Shots from the Hip is the name of the podcast. That's a production of the Shotgun Sports Network. Lots of great CFL and NHL-centric podcasts there at that network. Shots from the Hip is also on YouTube. We've been doing movie reviews as well, sports movie reviews as part of that show. That is a separate feed. So if you are happy, and I don't blame you, if you are happy with this show for your CFL content, I still encourage you to check out the sports movie reviews. That's a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun with those. This week, there won't be one because I was appearing on this show. And my co-host, Jason Bisick, was also co-hosting on another show this week. So we don't have a proper CFL show this week, but we will be doing the movie reviews and the CFL previews again next week. So you can check me out there, but otherwise, nah. I mean, talk about not betting. How about not
engaging?
Not social media-ing.
Engaging. Yes.
That might be healthy for you too. I also wanted to say that probably as an American, I would say not so much that I saved your bacon, but I saved your Canadian bacon.
Nice. Very nice. I like it. So before I do my sign off, these movies you review, are they new movies or the older ones too?
Nah, we're mostly doing classic. I mean, there's just not that many sports movies coming out these days, right? And I don't want to say classic. Yeah. I mean, we're across the board. Yeah, we did Horse Feathers, the Marx Brothers movie about football, which is, almost 100 years old at this point. But, for example, the next one we'll be looking at is Raging Bull. The 1980 Martin Scorsese film starring Robert De Niro. But, we're just across the board. I think last week we did He Got Game, the Spike Lee basketball movie starring Denzel Washington and Ray Allen from the 1990s. We do classics. We do obscure ones, We did, after the Oscars last year, we did Marty Supreme, which was the ping pong movie, which was starring Timothée Chalamet, which was nominated for the Oscar. So, it's a grab bag, but it's fun. In a previous life, I was a film critic for a newspaper. Okay. So I like to go back to the film reviews. I'm such a movie junkie.
Yeah. So
it's worth a look. Yeah.
So I have to ask, have you done Remember the Titans yet?
We have not. We have not done that.
I'll have to watch for when that one comes up.
Sure, we'll look at that one. I'm sure
my all-time favorite one, probably. But anyway, thank you. Like I say, I can't thank you enough. When the injury bug had bit us, getting some veteran talent that could come in for a week and carry us through to what I feel like was a win was extremely good. Yeah. So please check out everything that Oz is doing with Shots from the Hip. And sorry, what was the movie one called?
It's just part of the Shots from the Hip feed.
It's all under Shots from
on
the Hip.
YouTube.
Okay. So check him all out there. Myself, I curate most of the social media at the CFL Outsiders, so you can find me on just about anything there other than Facebook and Threads. And if you go to Instagram, you get MJ. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. I've listened to Oz for years, first time I've met him, so this has been a lot of fun for me. And we'll just finish off with our traditional. For Oz Davis, this is Old Man saying, until next week, get the hell off my lawn.